Great. So let's go to the quiz now, though. Okay, everybody have a sheet of paper. And let's start with the heart. Number 1, give me the name of this vessel, the third one that comes off of the main heart, main aorta here, the third piece here. What's that called? That's number 1. Everybody mute. Thanks. Number 2, what is this valve called here that it's pointing to? What is this valve called? Number 3, what is this structure called here? And number 4, oops, that's a long one now. I like you to tell me what this red artery, this red vessel is called that goes down here in the front. Good. Then let's go do some bloody stuff. So I still have one person not on mute. Let me see real quick. Everybody go on mute, please. There you go. Blood vessels. There we go. You seeing blood? Yeah, here. Tell me what this white blood cell is called, please.
What number is this? 4?
4.
Okay.
No, 5.
5? Okay.
And then 6. Tell me what this big one is called. I hope I'm doing it correct. And then number 7, we're actually gonna go to the next structure, which is the brain. You see the brain? Whoa, 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 whoa. Look at that. How did that happen? All right. Oof. That's a weird brain. Okay, you see the arrow at least? Tell me. Oh, shoot. I can't do this. Hold on. That was not the description of how they're supposed to work. Hold on. Okay, what's this red wiggle called here? That's number 7. Number 8, if I can position it. Oh, well, that doesn't work. Oops. Number 8, what's this lobe called here that's behind the temporal lobe? That's number 8. Number 9. I'd like you to tell me, which is part of the ventricular system, what this big thing is called here, this blue thing that's on the side, that's on both sides, there's one on each side. What's that one called? That's number 9. Well, let's go to the next one. This brain is a little frustrating here. Spinal cord. Number 10. I'd like you to tell me this butterfly part here, this brownish structure here, which is part of this whole internal gray matter part. Which one is this one? Number 10. Number 11. Tell me this yellow structure here, this nerve. What is that called? Oops. There it was. But what is it? Number 11. Number 12. Let me know if I go too fast. Well, I say it now, huh? You can always speak up. Number 12. What is the tip of the spinal? The tip of the spinal cord called here. 12. Good. And then we'll move on to the latest edition, these special senses. And we're going to do the eye. And I want you to tell me what this white structure in here is called. Number 13. Number 13. Number 14, I'm going to look at the eye muscles, and I want you to tell me the one that, is on top and goes straight to the top of the eyeball. It's a straight muscle that goes to the top of the eyeball. That's number 14. And number 15, I want you to tell me the muscle that is not a straight muscle. That is one that goes from the back here in the bone towards the medial side inside and has a pulley and then anchors into the eyeball sort of in an angle. So that muscle here, that's number 15. And number 16, I want you to tell me this anatomical term for the snail structure here, number 16. And lastly, number 17, what is this white structure called here where the sound waves come in and then it vibrates? Closest to outer ear canal here. 17. Good. All right. How was that? A little challenging? Nobody.
No, it's not too bad.
Okay. Huh? Can you follow? Are you following okay though?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. And is it, the other question is it actually helpful? So
yeah, it's just like how we can expect it on the exam.
Yeah, well, I'm working on making the exam this week, and I'm going to use photographs of the models, and so it should be very close. It should be the same basically, and so I want to see how that goes. Some of the exercises, like the kidneys, for example, I'm already using a model picture for the labeling exercise. So that should be very simple. The heart should be very simple. I think the brain structures you should be all good about. But the exam that's final is like the second midterm, basically, labeling stuff. So I think you should be ready in terms of how many terms are on the list by the time we're done. All right, first one. What was that? Anybody?
The left subclavian artery.
Left subclavian artery, yes. Second one was a valve. Which valve was that? This is free for all. This is not like
is it the semi-lunar?
Semi-lunar valve. Perfect. And then 3, I think I pointed to this inside structure here.
Interventricular septum.
Good. Interventricular septum. And then number 4, I pointed to this vessel that feeds the heart muscle itself that goes down in the front. Anterior. Anybody?
Descending artery?
Anterior descending artery, right. Good. And then from there, we went to the blood. And in the blood, we pointed to... There you go. Anybody?
Neutrophil.
Neutrophil, good. And then the second one, which was number 6.
A monocyte.
The monocyte.
Well,
Perfect.
monocyte.
Very good. And then from there, we go right to the brain. And there I lost my pointer. I think it's an old version where I made that brain thing. The first structure I asked was the red one here, which is number 7.
Precentral gyrus.
Precentral gyrus, very good. And a second one, number 8, is this lobe here.
Thalamus.
The lobe is a lobe. No, the thalamus will be located right here in the middle of it. And so the lobe is not as much in the middle, it's more on the surface, not as deep. There we go. Here's the lobe. Anybody? The insula. Looking for the insula. And then number 9, I was looking for this chamber here, this blue chamber that's on each side, in each hemisphere, in each brain hemisphere. What is that called?
Is it the lateral ventricle?
It's correct. It's the lateral ventricle. It's the cerebrospinal fluid. A lot of it secretes right in here in the back, and then it circulates through this chamber, goes down into the third chamber, goes down the cerebral aqueduct, and in the fourth chamber, then on the sides, it comes back out and squeezes it out into the interstitial space.
I have a quick question. What was the insula behind the
temporal lobe?
Okay, thank you.
So the temporal lobe is here behind the ear, and if you pull that away, you have the insula behind it.
Okay.
And then you got the anterior is the frontal. Here's the parietal. You have the occipital lobe, and that's pretty much covering all of them. And then we went from there to the spinal cord. And the spinal cord first was what was I pointing at? Right here, what's that?
Is that the posterior horn?
Yes, that's the posterior horn. Good. Lateral and anterior. And then what is this one here? That's number 11.
Is that the dorsal root ganglion?
The dorsal root, almost. The dorsal root ganglion is right here. And where I pointed to is where the dorsal root ganglion is then where it feeds into the dorsal root.
That's
and
the
then the
spinal nerve,
ventral
isn't
root.
it?
The what?
The spinal nerve?
It's the spinal nerve, right. So where the roots come together, we form the spinal nerve. And then the number 12, the last on this slide, is where the tip of the spinal cord is down here. What is that called?
Conus medullaris.
Conus medullaris. Very good. Very good. Good. You guys are doing good. And then we have this left here, the special senses, and then we'll go to the lecture. So the first one was this white structure here. That is number 13.
The lens.
The lens. Very good. And then we start looking at muscles. The first one is straight on top. Anybody?
Is that the superior rectus muscle?
Yes. Good. Both of you guys. Superior rectus muscle. And then the next one I have is the one that's more on the inside. Oops, sorry. That's more here, goes through this pulley and then anchors in the ball of the eye and an angle.
Lateral rectus?
No.
No? Okay.
That would be, that's actually the one that caught here, I think. This one, they will go right here to the side of the eyeball. But this is one of those angled ones. There's two angled ones. One on top and one on the bottom.
Is that
Anybody?
the superior oblique?
Yes, very good. Superior oblique. That's a tough one. That'll be much easier to see on the eyeball when I pointed at it. And I'm sure you'll see that much easier. And then the other thing I pointed to is this structure right here. That's number 16. And what's that?
Cochlea.
Cochlea. Very good. And then lastly, number 17 is
tympanic membrane.
very good. Tympanic membrane. Okay, so that's pretty
Professor,
good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
It's okay.
These days, you know.
So I got it confused. I mean, because I know when I was doing the lab, it kind of shows the same thing as the tympanic membrane and the eardrum. Are they the same? Are they in the same spot? Because it kind of looks like it.
The tympanic membrane is the eardrum. It's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wrote eardrum on my test.
Yeah.
All right, but on the test, you just write down what's on the list, on the term list.
Because I think on
That way we learn the anatomical terminology.
Oh,
Huh?
okay. Also, what are the lines that you're showing on the ear part? You see the two lines pointing at something?
Where?
The two lines. You can see it right there. That one.
Here? That one?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that's pointing to.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at something. That's why, and I couldn't.
No, I was pointing at this one here, and then at the cochlea in here.
Oh no, I meant on the lab. Like when we were doing it, I thought we were supposed to write something on it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, for these lines?
Yeah.
No. I'm not sure where that came from. No. Just label all the stuff on the term list.
Okay.
Only the term list. I think this was a bigger blown up picture of these bones in here somewhere. But I don't want you to worry about memorizing these little bones because it gets a little tricky.
Can you show me where is the external auditory meatus, something like that?
Yeah, that's right here.
Please.
That's basically like here, the ear canal. And then see the bone? Here you see the bone?
Yeah.
And that's what we saw on the skull, on the side of the skull. That's that hole.
Oh,
and
I see.
that was then the external auditory meatus or canal.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good. Good. Perfect. All right. So now let's go to the material. And that gets me right to, and then we'll get cruising here. . Questions. All right. And now we're going to do again Whoever's first says an answer, and then don't say answers anymore until we open it up for everybody again. All right? We'll go with the respiratory system consists of the lungs and deals with gases. It extracts oxygen from the atmosphere. What main gas does it get rid of?
Iona, carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. Perfect. All right, good. Number 2. Oh, this is a big one. A main function of the respiratory system is to keep blood's acidity level, which is measured as a pH, within a narrow range, which means the body has to finally control the hydrogen ion concentration. As cells break down glucose to harness energy, carbon atoms split off and combine with the oxygen to form carbon dioxide. CO2 then combines with water, forming the carbonic acid, which can then split into bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ion. Interestingly, bicarbonate ions act reversibly. They either pick up or release hydrogen ions depending on their concentration. As CO2 concentrations rise, hydrogen ions do as well. In the lungs, the body breathes out the CO2, effectively decreasing hydrogen ion concentration and therefore decreasing blood acidity. Which other organ helps balance the body's acidity level via the production of bicarbonate?
The kidney. Joanna.
Whoa. Who was first?
Me. Joanna.
No, Shirley. Hold on. She was just in the background quiet. Well, I'll give it both to you. What is it called? Which one is it?
The
Kidneys.
Shirley and Joanna, both of you. And what is it?
Kidneys.
Kidneys. There you go. Good. Did you guys understand that stuff?
Yeah. It kind of wasn't it on the other chapter too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning chapter. I talked about it also in the chemistry chapter. But it's quite a complicated concept, and I hope you get a little bit of a grip. Yes, question? Nobody? Okay. All right, so if that clear, then we'll go to the next one. Air contains oxygen, which the body extracts within the alveoli of the lungs and pass it on to the bloodstream, which then delivers it to the cells. In order to get deep into the lungs, where oxygen can be exchanged, air has to travel from the nose or the mouth through a series of passageways. What is that area or zone collectively called that ventilates?
Professor?
Yes.
Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the conducting zone.
It's the conducting zone, and that's Adolfo, right?
Yep.
There you go, number 3. Yeah. If nobody question, I go forward. If a question arises, just stop me. The upper air passages, mainly the nose and pharynx, not simply air channels air towards the lungs, but they also warm, humidify, and purify the air we breathe in. How does the body keep these passageways moist?
The mucous membrane.
Mucous membrane. Okay, that's Ebony.
Yes.
Mucous membranes. Good. Number 5. Nasal concha within the nasal cavities are bony flaps covered with highly vascularized tissue. They are shaped in a way that when we breathe through the nose, the air has to circulate and slow down. How do they help the body prepare the air for the lungs?
Nate?
Who, Nate?
Yeah, moisten, purify, and warm.
Moist, purify, and warm. Correct. That's why when it's really cold outside, it helps a little bit more to breathe through the nose than through the mouth. Number 6. Sinuses are air chambers within the skull that help warm air and give volume to one's voice. All the sinuses connect to the nasal cavity into which they drain. If they get infected with mucus and mucus blocks their opening, the presence inside them builds up and creating pain, which is sinusitis. Which sinuses are most vulnerable to such infection?
Maxillary.
No, we got it wrong to the money here. It's good. That means you're all prepared. I like it. Number 7, the posterior part of the nasal cavity becomes the pharynx, which leads all the way down to behind the bulge one can feel in front of the neck. Behind that bulge, more prominent in men, also known as the Adam's apple, is an area where we create voice or vocalization. What is the voice box called?
Most of the larynx.
Larynx, who said first?
OB.
OB, good. Larynx. Very good. The voice box. Within the voice box, two vocal cords span from the back, from the front to the back, anterior to posterior. As air passes by them, when we exhale, they vibrate and create voice. Vowels, the A, E, I, O, U, are created within the voice box. Which structures help form consonants? Choose all to apply.
Kirsty.
Kirsty?
Yeah, tongue, palate, lips, and teeth.
Very good. Basically everything in the oral cavity that what you can push against and make the sound. Number 9, the epiglottis is a cartilage flap that points upward. When we swallow, it descends covering the windpipe. Why would that be helpful?
Prevents food from entering the windpipe. Melissa?
Prevents food from entering the windpipe. Correct. Who's that?
That was Melissa.
Perfect. Super. Yeah, we don't need to cover the wind. We don't need to cover the food pipe, but we do need to cover the windpipe because it stays open. And that's where we get to now. Below the larynx, we find a trachea, a tube filled with horseshoe-shaped cartilages that are open in the back. They help keep the windpipe open since air is not strong enough to push it open when we breathe. At the bottom of the trachea, what structure bifurcates it into two bronchi?
Corina.
Corina, who said that?
Marcella.
Marcella, good. Karina. Number 11. Once low enough, the trachea splits into two bronchi, the left and the right one, each feeding the lung with air. They split into ever finer branches, getting smaller and smaller until they reach an area where gases exchange can take place. What are the grape-like air sacs called?
Alveoli. Chris.
Who's that?
Chris.
Alveoli. Very good. Number 12. Remember, when we talked about the heart, I had you visualize pushing a fist into an air-filled balloon to demonstrate the continuous serous membrane that on one side attaches to the organ, on the other to the body wall. In the heart, that membrane was called the pericardium. What is it called in the lungs? Everybody, I still got people. Who? I didn't. Who said pleura first?
Dennis, the third one.
Yeah, but there was also another voice I heard.
It was Marisol, but I already answered one.
Oh, okay. So you don't get one.
Yeah.
13. Then we're good. In the heart, the serous. Wait, that I did that already. No, I didn't do. In the heart, the serous membrane mainly reduces friction. In the respiratory system, it also helps to keep the lungs suctioned to the chest wall so that when the chest expands, the lungs passively follow and fill up with air. If something breaks the membrane, a broken rib, for example, the affected lung collapses and can't fill with air, making breathing more difficult. What is that condition called?
The second one?
Which is pneumothorax. Say that. Who spoke?
Catherine.
Catherine. Say pneumothorax with me. Pneumothorax. It's hard, huh?
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll do it next time.
Okay.
How many lobes does the right lung have?
2.
2. Who was that? Orvi. Good. Wait, the right lung has no.
3.
Yeah, the left lung has 2.
I think on the left. I think on the left. My bad.
Yeah, the left lung has 2 because the heart is on the left, generally speaking. The heart is on the left side, so it's a little less space there. So there you go. You got me. All right, 14. Number 15. All the pipes, blood vessels, nerves, and bronchi enter and exit the lungs at the same place, medially by the mediastinum or mediastinum. What is the root of each lung called?
Iona, helium, that's what it's called? Helium?
Wait, what? Iona, right?
Yeah. Is it helium?
Yes, hilum.
Hilum. Okay.
Hilum. Perfect. Hilum. Very good. Pulmonary vessels connects the heart to the lungs, bringing blood close to the alveoli for gas exchange. Which one, an artery or a vein, carries oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart?
Vein?
A vein. Who's that?
Alice?
Alice, good. I think we're opening for free fall. Daniela, I have a few. Marisol answer. Yeah, I think we can go for free for all for the last ones. As we inspire, the chest cavity expands outward and also downward, the often forgotten belly breathing. Which muscle is mainly responsible for increasing the cavity inferiorly?
The diaphragm.
The diaphragm. Very
Ebony.
good. It was Ebony. We describe different respiratory volumes depending on how deep one breathes. Quiet breathing without much exertion is shown as tidal volume, during which only about half a liter of air, fresh air exchanges the lungs. More rigorous breathing is possible by both inspiring as well as expiring more. What is the maximum volume of a single breath called?
Vital capacity.
Very good. Who's that?
Jessica, I lost connection.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, that's very good. So that's vital capacity. Number 19, gas exchange between air and blood happens within the tiny air sacs called the alveoli, where alveolar cells, type 1 pneumocytes, cling to capillaries. Another cell type, type 2 pneumocytes, secrete surfactants to help keep the small spheres from collapsing due to the tension created by the hydrogen bond between the water molecules. What is the third type called that keeps the alveoli clean?
Dust cells? Dust cells?
Yes. Everybody
Dust
got
cells.
it.
Which
Dust
one was
cells.
that?
Huh?
Which one was the answer?
Dust cells.
Oh, I put alveolar macrophages.
Are you? Well, they are macrophages.
So
They're resident macrophages. So that's interesting. Let's go there real quick because that is an interesting point. Look at that. We went all the way. See, this chapter is not as complex anymore like the brain, isn't that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like this much more. The brain was so confusing.
the brain was harder, right? Well, the brain is well, you know. Oh shoot!
It's very complex.
The brain, it better be complicated because it's our brain we're talking about. So we have multiple different cell types here, and the dust cells are actually white blood cells that live in the alveoli, and so therefore they have their own name, and they call them the dust cells. In the liver, they have them also. They call them the Kupfer cells, which we'll learn on Wednesday. And in the skin, we also had them, those macrophages. They call them the Langerhans cells there. So we just, depending on where they live, they have different names. But they're all basically correct. Whoever said macrophages, they are basically macrophages. I just want the answer to be a little bit more specific to the
With
lung.
more dot cells.
Huh?
So that's dot cells instead of macrophages.
Dust cells, yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And at least they clean out the dust in the lungs. So they're like vacuum cleaners. So you can at least visualize that. Number 21, respiratory gases, O2 and CO2 mainly, travel between alveoli and blood vessels by diffusion. Remember, diffusion is a passive process where a solute moves down a concentration gradient. Do you expect the concentration of O2 to be greater in the alveoli or entering capillary before the blood gets oxygenated?
Alveoli?
Yes. So that if the alveoli has more oxygen in it and the capillary travels by that is not oxygenated, that comes straight from the heart, then that oxygen can travel right down the concentration gradient into the blood. And we see that right here. You guys understood that part?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if nobody is... That means we did a decent job explaining it. That's good. As it comes to neural control of breathing, the brain basically needs to stimulate muscle contraction while we inspire. Once the lung tissue stretches enough, receptors send a signal to the brain telling it to stop. Mute to stop contraction of the diaphragm and other inspiratory muscles. We also have chemoreceptors measuring CO2 and O2 blood concentration. These send signals to the brain, which can then fine-tune the force and depth of breathing, which I think is very cool.
Sorry.
Huh?
Sorry. I thought it was
in which part of the brain do we find the inspiratory neurons that activate muscles making us inhale?
Medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata. And who was that?
Melissa.
Melissa, perfect. Good. And that was just the last slide down here. Basically, where was that? In this area. But it seems like that's pretty straightforward, right? When you think about the lungs, you have to inhale, which is an active process, and then letting go of the air, that's the exhalation. And so it's basically a springing back. And that's why we need to have the inhalation centers. All right, how is that? Any questions to this material?